Can you at least put a visual up?
Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Chris, can you hear us, Chris?
Now I can. It just came on.
Oh,
Okay.
Same here.
Butch nominated Jeff. I nominated William Bill Baldino. We're going for a vote.
Are there any other nominations for committee chair?
No, the video screen and the sound just came on
Okay,
at 3:18.
all right, thank you.
Nominations closed.
Any other nominations?
Closed.
Hearing none, we'll move on to the selection of the board chair. We have two nominations, one for Jeff and one for Bill. Because we have enough people, I think we'll have to do this via roll call, just so we can get a good tally and make sure that we can hear everybody. So all those, let's start with Bill. Yeah, let's start with Bill. Again, there's two nominations, one for Jeff Johnston, one for Dr. Bill Baldino. Bill, how do you vote?
Baldino.
Thank you. Chris, how do you vote?
Baldino.
Elizabeth, how do you vote?
Baldino.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Me.
Butch, how do you vote? Jeff. Okay, we have 3 votes for Dr. Bill Baldino to chair the committee, 2 for Jeff Johnston. Bill, you are the chair of the committee. So I will hand the meeting over to you to conduct. I'm assuming that you have access to the agenda and can move forward. Is that correct?
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Just
Yeah, I'm
go
looking at it right now.
go down your agenda and board docs.
Bill, are you able to unmute your microphone?
I'm sorry. I was doing it temporarily and forgot when I let go of the button.
Okay, great.
Okay, let me bring up the agenda again here.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
you're
we can hear
beautiful
you.
now.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. The first item is a presentation by Penn Strategies, but I believe I saw something that was going to be postponed. Is that correct, Frank?
Penn Strategies have indicated that they are not able to work with us because they have engaged with another client who would have similar interests. And so they would feel it would be a conflict of interest for them to work with us and their new client. So they have backed out from their offer to work with us.
Okay.
Chair.
So let's go on to
Sure.
item number two. I'm sorry, Elizabeth, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Chair Bill. I do love, first I want to say thank you for whoever put this on the agenda. I'm sorry to see that it got taken off, but at the same time, I would like us to consider at the end what we might put on the agenda next month for RFPs for this position. Thank you.
Okay. So the next thing is Beacon Healthcare information. Is there someone presenting that, Frank?
Yes, we have a couple of folks here from Benecon. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
I know you'll have this on your screen.
Oh, it's the same thing?
Yeah, but sometimes a lot of numbers. So.
No, I
So
appreciate
I'm going to
that.
ask that throughout the presentation, use a microphone, especially with our chair remotely. He can't hear you unless you have a microphone right in front of you.
Are you gonna turn it on?
If you just push and hold the stand microphone is working. So you've just pulled that one close to you, it'll work just fine.
Okay. Is that good? You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Bill, can you hear?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy Cook. I'm from Benetcon, and I have Danielle Omens with me from Benetcon as well. Reason I'm here today is to talk about the health insurance program that Keystone has participated in since 2009. And I have it on paper, which I'm sorry for the people that are remote, but sometimes it's just easier to look at the paper, sometimes the screen, depending on what I'm presenting. So I'm giving you both options. So we'll start with the presentation, and I don't, Chris, you'll, okay.
You just let me know if I.
Okay.
We're on the confidential page. right
Okay,
now, so-
right, and we'll go on to the next page. This just explains who Benetcon is. We have been developing self-funded health insurance consortiums for almost 30 years. We started in the state of Pennsylvania with 4 municipalities in Lancaster County. Way back when. We managed 14 consortiums nationwide. Now, most of them are located in the state of Pennsylvania. With our account management, which is me, Danielle, we have our actuarial team. We actually have 2 FSA actuaries on staff, as well as numerous ASA actuaries on staff. We have Connect Care 3, which I'm not going to go into all of those as different things, but we bring a lot to the table. Our retention rate is 98%.
What does that mean?
That means that once somebody joins our consortium, they don't leave it. So,
Based on how long you've been in business?
yes, for 30 years, our public sector retention rate is 98%.
That's unheard of. Great.
I know, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Because it's a great program. And that's what I'm going to talk about in here, and why this has really worked for Keystone over the years too. We go to the next page. This is just a list of all the schools that are in the program. We have 22 school districts in the state that are in this PSHIC program. It's Public School Health Insurance Cooperative. Keystone was actually one of the founding members back in 2009 with Central Dauphin School District and Dauphin County Technical School. So you've been with the program since the very beginning. We go to the next page. These are just shows the services that we provide. I'm not going to go into a lot of this. This is a lot of takeaway for you. You can look at it later. Today, I really want to explain how our program works, different options that you have when purchasing your health insurance. We go to the next page, which is page 6. These are the different options you have to pay for your health insurance. Basically, there's 2. There's fully insured, which is where you pay a set premium and you give it to the carrier, the Highmark in your case, and they pay your claims with that money. For a group your size, it's not a very efficient way to fund your healthcare claims because you're large enough that you shouldn't just be handing your money over, because when they have a good year, when you have a good year in claims, that means Highmark has a really good year because they keep your money. Smaller group sizes under 100, that might be make a little more sense, especially under 50. It might make more sense to be fully insured for the protection that they could get from that, from age banding, because an age band, it means if you have a lot of young people that work for you, your premium is low. You have a lot of old people that work for you, it means your premium is high. Obviously, right? As we get older, we use more health insurance. The carriers with a fully insured option, the carriers pay the claims with the premium dollars that you provide each month. As I said, in a good claim year, the carrier retains your unused premium. In the bad claim year, your renewal increase will likely be punitive because they don't like to lose money. All fully insured premium is topped off with a 2% state tax. And there's no price transparency. So you're giving them this set amount of money each month, and you don't know how much of that money is going to pay claims, how much is going into overhead. There's just, you pay your single, your 2-tier, your 3-tier rate, and you don't know where the money's at.
Oh, excuse me. Which one are we at right now?
Which page?
No, I'm sorry. Which one of these 3 programs is Keystone?
Self-funding with PSHIC, the last one.
Last one? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. The other common way to fund your healthcare is what we call standalone self-funded. You're of a size that you could do standalone self-funding. How that works is you pay a carrier like Highmark. There's United Healthcare, Cigna, Aetna. You pay the carrier to process your claims and to provide you that network. The carrier sends you a weekly claims invoice, and you have to turn around and pay that claim, that invoice within 24 to 48 hours. You purchase stop loss insurance on top of that. So what that means is when you're self-funded, you as the employer pay up to a certain dollar amount for your employees' claims. So right now, you guys are paying $100,000 per person on your plan in a year for your employees' claims. And then once the employee reaches that $100,000 point, you have this stop loss insurance. So you purchase stop loss insurance. And the stop loss carrier then pays the rest of those claims, right? So that's risk protection because you don't want to be responsible for these very high dollar claims. When you're standalone self-funded outside of a program such as PSHIC, your stop loss point is typically much higher. Say your group size, probably closer to 200,000 would be your risk. Because a stop loss carrier wants to take on the least amount of risk as possible for the most amount of premium. They pay your high dollar claims. You have the potential for what they call lasers. So what a laser is that the stop loss carriers knows that you have somebody with, say, end stage renal disease, and they know dialysis is going to cost $400,000 a year. What they're going to say is, we're going to laser that person out, and we're not paying for that person's claims because we know they're a train wreck. We're going to have to pay for this. So we're not paying for that person. You, the school, have to pay for all of this person's dialysis. That's very common in self-funding. I mean, very common. I've been at Benecon for 18 years. Prior to coming to Benecon, I only did standalone self-funding. I gave lasers out always. Every year I was giving lasers out. Because a stop loss carrier, there's no loyalty. They don't care. If they know that there's somebody who's going to have, like, say, dialysis or a continuing condition year after year, they're not going to pay for that person's claims. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but why would anyone go with standalone, self-funded? I mean, who is this really geared towards?
Well,
It doesn't seem like this is a school district, right?
it's risk tolerance, I guess.
Okay.
You know, I know of a 30 life group who has been standalone self-funded for 30 some years, and they've never had a stop loss claim before. So they've never had a laser
Okay,
before,
that's not us.
right? No, that's not you. I will
No,
show you
that's
that.
not us. Anyone mind if just talk about this?
That is definitely not you. I have proof. I have charts and graphs to back that up.
Yes, we have seen. Thank you.
Yeah, it's lasers are scary. I mean, I said 18 years at Benecon, but the year before I started at Benecon, I had a city that was about maybe 500 or 600 employees, and they were near distress. They could not afford a color printer. They joked they couldn't afford pencils, and I'm not sure how much of a joke it was. I had to give them a $500,000 laser, and they were devastated because they didn't know how they were going to pay it. And the problem is you can't run from these claims. You can't say, okay, well, I'm going to be fully insured this year. I'm just going to pay a set premium to the carrier. Let them take this claim. No, your premium is going to go up $500,000. They're not losing money on you. So you cannot run. Your claims are your claims are your claims. That's what I always say. You cannot run from them. How you can get ahead of your claims is through PSHIC. So we'll talk about that. So this is a modified self-funding. It looks like almost like a fully insured plan in that you pay a fixed premium every month. When I come out here every April, I give Joni your renewal. You know exactly what you're paying, what your maximum liability is when I come here in April from July through June. That is your worst case scenario. Unlike a fully insured plan, if there's money left at the end of the year, you get it back. We give you back your premium. So it's, like I say, it's modified in that it looks like fully insured, but it really is self-funded because you get that fixed premium, you get the return of your premium. We pay the claims for you on a weekly basis. Highmark sends us your invoice and we pay your claims. We purchase the stop loss insurance with the premium that you provide. Your stop loss is set at $100,000. As I said, if you were standalone self-funded, it would probably be closer to $200,000. We look at what the risk we think you should take on. And we believe this year it was 100,000. It might go up. It typically goes up every other year. So it might go up, and it didn't go up last year, so it could go up for your next plan year.
Okay, I'm so
And-
sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Would you prefer I just keep writing down questions or?
Oh, no,
catching you?
absolutely.
Would tell me how you want me to do this, because I
You can-
got a question right now for that.
You can ask as we go. I think that makes
Is
more
that what you
sense.
want?
And
Okay.
if you ask me a question I know I'm gonna hit later on, I'm gonna say,
Go. Later.
okay, yep,
Thank you, because, sorry. So you're saying that our minimum is $100,000. There's no negotiation to get our first payments done that are less than $100,000. The only thing that's gonna, you see what I'm saying? Keystone Central School District right now is to pay per person up to $100,000 out of our own budget.
Mhm.
Once we reach $100,000, then the insurance kicks in. My question is there any negotiation rooms that $100,000 is actually only $50,000 out of our pocket, and then the insurance would kick in?
I'm gonna show you a slide.
Got it.
Okay. All right, so we set that stop loss point.
Mhm.
Our actuaries do it. We look at your population and think what risk you could take on, right? So that we come up with that number. We do not give lasers. So when we get to the point where we look at your stop loss people, you'll thank God for that. Because you have some sick people and you have continually year after year, the same people that are sick. There's no lasers in our program. And the reason we can do that, and this is really important, because you could go to somebody who's going to try to sell you a standalone self-funded plan and they'll say, well, my reinsurance carrier won't give you a laser either. That would be a true statement for no more than 2 years, guaranteed. They will say, okay, for 2 years, no lasers. After that 2 years, all bets are off and you're probably going to get a huge increase. Because nobody's in to losing money, right? They're not in this game to lose money. They'll pull you in by a low rate. They'll pull you in by no lasers, caps on your renewals. That's how they get you, right? But they can't keep you because if you have the kind of claim years that you've had in the last 5 years, they're not going to want to keep you because you're outpacing what you're paying in premium, what they're paying in claims. We do take a long-term pricing perspective. So what that means is if you are, say, 20% above where we expected you to be, because our actuaries will look at your numbers and they'll say, okay, Keystone should pay X number of dollars in claims this year. Sorry, lost my train of thought. If Keystone is 20% above this X number of dollars,
Mhm.
and trend, which is inflation, is 9% for medical insurance, you should get a 29% increase, right? Easy math. You're 20% higher than you should be. 9% is what medical trend is, which is what we think, and we're good at predicting this, what we think costs will be next year.
Mhm.
Doctor's visits, hospitals, 9% more than it was in 2024 is what we think it'll be in a 25-26 plan year. We're not going to give you a 29% increase. We bring you up slowly. Because that could be an anomaly. That could be just a bad year. So we don't want to spike you up just to bring you back down again. So we do take that long-term pricing perspective. We bring you down slowly too. You guys have had decreases in the past for your insurance. Not huge, but I've had schools that have gotten several fairly large decreases in a couple year time period because they made some big plan changes. We didn't plummet them down. We brought them down slowly. So it goes both ways, that
Fair
long-term
enough.
pricing perspective. Okay. The 2% state tax that you pay on your entire fully insured premium, you only pay in the stop loss portion when you're self-funded. This is the big one for you guys. There are no gaps in coverage. So there's whatever is covered under your plan document, your Highmark policy is going to be covered under your stop loss policy too. If you have somebody on your plan that shouldn't be on your plan, which you do right now, under our policy, that person is going to be covered. So there are no gaps in coverage.
I'm sorry, please, I need clarification. So we have someone that's not supposed to be under our health insurance, but they're under our health insurance?
It's in here. We're gonna talk about this. It's part of,
Oh.
it's part of this presentation, and I'll explain
Okay,
why.
but this is public information. We're not mentioning any names or?
Nope.
Yeah, of course not. I mean, okay.
No names, no names. But we do need to talk about it because
Yes,
this is
please.
important that you understand, this is the value of this program, is that's why I want to talk about it. All right, go to the next page. This is an overview of the PSHIC model. Each school's pricing is specific to your own risk, your experience, your census, and your plan design. The stop loss provides a protection on the large claims and on the excessive claims. So what that means is, the stop loss carrier will not only pay for your claims over your specific, they'll pay for your claims over the aggregate as well. So you have the protection both ways. So if the entire cooperative blows up and everybody blows through their claims fund, the stop loss carrier will come in and protect and pay for those claims. And I'm going to show you a slide on that lays out exactly how that works. No more call, there's no calls on additional funds. You know what your maximum liability is in April for your July 1 start date. Because you are a public sector entity, you fall under the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act, which means you can commingle funds. So that's how we handle this. You send your premium into Benecon along with the other 21 schools. That premium for your claims goes into an operating account. We pay claims for everybody out of that operating account. We silo you, we keep track of what each one of our schools is paying. Jody gets a report every year or every month so she can see what the claims have been for that month, but all of the money goes into one big pot. Okay. I'm going to talk about cross share in the next piece. I already talked about your surplus is returned if there's money left in your premium. Couple more pages and I'm going to get to the meat of this. This is the mechanics of the program on the next page. Benecon provides the infrastructure, which means we provide the stop loss contract. We give you the structure of the self-funded model, which is our consortium. And we are the administrators of the cooperative. You as the school, you can pick your own benefits administrator. You pick Highmark, which makes sense because where you're located. Highmark is the biggest player. You give your plan design. We do not dictate what your plan design is. You can choose whatever you want. Highmark will cover whatever you want. With fully insured, there might be times where the carrier will say, well, no, we're not covering this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. Doesn't happen in our program. Perfect example is about 10 years ago, Highmark changed the policy that bony impacted, either fully or partially impacted wisdom teeth no longer covered under medical. Which is a pain in the butt, right? Because your dental insurance isn't covered though. I mean, it's expensive to get that stuff. That didn't change for Keystone. It's still covered under your medical.
Under Highmark?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
We didn't change it because you're all unions up here. Right? We didn't want to take that benefit away.
I didn't know Highmark had them, to be honest with
It's
you.
not dental. It's because it's a fine line, right? They used to always cover. I'm talking about impacted, right? That's surgical,
Yeah.
right? Oral surgeon only will do that. It was always covered under medical. And like I said, about 10 years ago, they said, we're not going to cover it under medical anymore. So it's no longer covered under your health plan. It has to be under dental now. Well, we don't let that happen because we knew there'd be huge union issues. All of a sudden your plan changed. So those are the kind of things that you get to keep by being in a program like this. So you
Don't worry about it now. I'll have questions.
Okay. And you provide your eligibility requirements. All right, so next page. This is how our program works. This is the most important slide in this program or this presentation. All of my presentations when I meet with my clients are color coordinated. These colors are what you see. When you see a green box, that is your claim fund. That's all claims under $100,000 are paid out of that green box. if you exhaust that green box in your plan year, we're not gonna come back to you and say, we need more money. It's not how our program works. We have the only risk share component of the program is what we're calling cross share. So cross share is every member pledges a percentage of their surplus, if they have any, to help out other members who have exhausted their green box, their claims fund. Okay. Some years we don't use any money. Some years we use some money. If I had to go a bar graph of this is 0 to 100, that's probably what we've used altogether. It's a very small amount of money, but that is the risk component of the program. Every member does pledge a percentage of their surplus, and in the end, it turns out to be very little. Last year at this time, it looked like you would be the recipient of that. It didn't happen, but you've come very close to having other members help you out. I think you might have had a year or two where you have had other members help you out. 2 out of every 7 years for a group your size, actuarial speaking, you're gonna have bad years. If the cross share ever got exhausted, which has never happened, not even close, but we purchase cheap aggregate stop loss insurance that overarches the entire cooperative. It's, I think, $4 per employee per month. And it protects you and the other schools from us ever coming back to you and saying, we ran out of money in your claims fund, your claims exceeded how much you put into premium. So the reinsurance carrier pays for those claims in excess of the claims fund amount.
Okay, so the green box, the
Mhm.
school district, this school district pays a certain amount to you or this business every year and they hold that money, correct? So
You
how,
pay it monthly.
okay, and that money you're earning interest on,
Mhm.
but, okay, so that's your, okay, got it.
No, that money is, that interest goes back to, it gets put into the administrative account, right? And out of that, we pay for the director and officer liability because we have board members
Of your
on the
company.
PSHIC board. No,
Right.
no, not our
Oh.
company, but the PSHIC board.
Okay,
Every member is a board member. We pay for it. We use the money that we earn in interest for the DNO policy and for the audit that we do every year too. We bring an outside auditor in to audit the financials.
okay, we'll talk about that later, but I don't, it's not important. So then the stop loss specific insurance coverage in the navy blue blocks, that's a separate insurance company that's insuring you.
Okay, so we'll talk. All right,
I'm
so
trying.
let me finish the whole thing.
Sorry.
Hopefully you'll understand it. All right, so once a claim reaches $100,000 per individual in that plan year, it goes up into that next layer.
Mhm.
So 80% of that claim, up to $400,000, gets paid by what we call a spec share account, and 20% by the reinsurance carrier. So what that orange box is basically another form of insurance. Every member in the cooperative, all 22 schools, put money into the spec share account. We know what that number is. It's a fixed cost. It goes into that spec share account to pay for those claims. It's a very efficient way to pay for high dollar claims
Mhm.
because it's dollar in, dollar out to pay a claim. No overhead built into it. So what that does is it lowers our stop loss insurance. That's the reinsurance carrier. All right. So Benecon's not involved in the insurance portion at all. We negotiate with the reinsurance carrier on your behalf to provide this stop loss insurance for these high dollar claims. But a lot of these claims are paid by that spec share amount. And so while the spec share is not designed to return money back to the member, if there's money left in this account at the end of the year, you get it back. I do have a slide that tells you how much you've gotten back over the years. It's not a lot, but it's not our money, it's your money. So it comes back to you. So once that claim, like I said, once it reaches 500,000 total, 100,000 of it is yours, 400,000 from the spec share and the stop loss coverage, it pays for 20% of that claim. The rest of that claim gets paid by all reinsurance. We're not dealing with it any longer. So it's volatile, can't predict it. We don't want to deal with it any longer. That makes sense to you?
Yes. you
Does
did a
it?
Great job.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're gonna go into this really ugly page called the financial summary.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna go over a lot of this because it's a lot of scary numbers and it's just an actuary put this slide together. He loves it. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Yeah, they are. This is James Heckler. He's the VP of Actuarial Services. He created this. The other thing I want to talk about is that highlighted yellow. This is where you came in each year that you've been in the program. So 100% is, we got it exactly right. You came in just where we thought you were going to come in, right? This is not like school. You want to be under 100% if you can, right? That's always your best bet. You don't want to get over 100%. So your first year in the program, very typical, 113%. Next year, and you got an increase commensurate with that experience. You came in at 104%. Then you had a great year, 91%, and I can go down the line there. You've had good years and you've had bad years. Those good years, you got your money back, right? You got to keep. In 2012 and 2013, you had a great year. You got $1.6 million of your premium back. That darker line there that you see, that one, when I point out that 1.6, that's the surplus that you've had returned to you over the years. 22, 23, 24, not good years. Your annual, and we look at year-over-year increases since you began in this program, your increase has averaged out to 7.5%.
What room is that?
You look at the
Oh,
bottom,
bottom.
see where it says year-over-year
Wild-
increase?
Yep,
Yep.
sorry, thank you.
That last column, 24, 25, is for the first 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
You're not doing well. For the first 6 months. And actually, if we take that 25% out, because that's what it looks like right now, where you're at, your average increase is closer to about 6% over the last 13 years. You've done very well in this program. You've had a couple bad years. You can't run from them. But overall, you've done well. Your loss ratio with the stop loss carrier is 92.6%, which we price it at about 80% because we know the stop loss carrier is in this to actually make money and not lose it. They've lost money with you. They've paid out basically more than claims, and I'm going to show you a slide that shows you that. They paid out more in claims in the last 5 years, I think it's been 5, than you've actually paid in premium. You good? You don't have to raise your hand. I'm looking right at you.
Okay, just real quick. I am not gonna waste anyone's time with this, I promise, but at some point, I would like the school board with administration to go over these numbers, because if you look at 2009 to 10, we had average count of employees at 686.3. And then at 2023-24, we have 515 average, but so we have 70 less employees than we did in 2009. But the increases are, doesn't seem the ratio was even close.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, don't worry, I'm not asking you to do math right now, I'm not, but what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, what?
515?
686 minus 515, just rounding.
171.
171.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 171 less employees than we did in 2009.
Mhm.
Oh, I forgot to put the one there. Sorry, thank you. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever that increase is per person, that is the number that I want to focus on when we talk later.
So this is average employee count. This is not including dependents,
No,
Yeah.
it's just your
just so we
employees.
understand that.
So do you have a table for that so we can see that also, the
This
dependents?
isn't like members, it's just employees.
We are scheduled to have a meeting with Highmark soon, right?
Oh my God.
Highmark does give that number. They'll break it down by employee dependent.
Retirees and then dependents, do they break it down that way?
You don't have retirees in their own separate plan, do you? Did you have a separate plan, all of them? Well, I can get you that.
No, don't worry about it now.
I know, I need to make a
Yeah,
note.
because too much, too
I
much.
can't
But yeah,
remember. I
because
need to make a
we've
note.
got some things to talk about in the future that I think these numbers are gonna be very helpful. Yeah. Yeah, this is unsustainable.
I have a question. Those, no, the numbers that we're paying and the refunds we're getting really is dependent on how many employees we have.
Right.
It's pretty much dependent on catastrophic health, like if someone has a major health issue, cancer, traumatic brain injury. So those high cost items is what brings the price up.
What you're looking at here, these are claims under your stop loss. Okay, so these aren't your high dollar claims. I'm gonna show you a slide. I have another graph and bar for you to look at, so you can see what that looks like, okay? It does give you a per employee per month cost as well. This, we'll get there, so you can see that too. What this slide is really showing you is these are your claims, right? These aren't administrative costs. These are what you're actually paying. And not just you guys, everybody. Health insurance is expensive. It's expensive for everyone. You're not like crazy out there. Like these numbers aren't like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before.
Right.
This is what we're seeing.
It's unsustainable.
Yeah, tell me how you fix it. I'd love to know how to fix it because you're right, it is unsustainable. I mean, somebody's gonna have to give eventually, but these are your costs. These are what you're paying for your claims. Okay. Next slide. These are all those numbers I just gave you in a little bar graph. That light blue are your administration costs, right? So that's what Benecon's fee is. That's what Highmark's fee is. The dark blue, that's your insurance. That's all you're paying to insure. The green is your actual claims. So these are just your claims under your stop loss. These are not those stop loss claims. These are what you're paying, not what the stop loss carrier is paying.
No, I
I will-
understand.
Yeah, I will show you what the stop loss
That-
carrier is paying.
If I may, Mr. Holt, if you are gonna update this at some point, if you would put that as the title on this, so so we know what this graph represents, that would be so helpful.
Yep, it's fine. Yeah, it was actually all on the same page. And I just tried to get it
No,
off
I
that page.
understand.
So yeah, I
gonna-
will.
These are just regular claims. These are just the regular.
Mhm. All right, let's go to the next page so you can see your claim fund performance. So this only shows you over the last 5 years. These are claims under your stop loss point in the last 5 years. The dark green is what we expected to happen. The lighter green bar on top was your maximum liability. The dark blue next to it is what actually happened. So you can see that steady progression moving upwards. And these are just your claims, no other costs in there.
And this is only a 4-year snapshot. 1, 2, 3,
4 and a half.
5.
Or 5, yeah, I guess we got through all of June. Yes, this is 5 years. We only show 5 years because it looks kind of ugly. We keep on going backwards. The bars get tinier and tinier and less. If I showed you 10 years of this, it would look exactly the same. It would just be a steady progression upwards.
Well, actually, I understand why you do that and I respect that. But for us, or for me, I should say, for us to be able to talk about this in a 10-year snapshot or a 5-year snapshot, that snapshot to me is very important because it really gives perspective on what the district is being responsible for and the employees are responsible for, the taxpayers are. So I find that 10-year snapshot extremely valuable
Okay,
as a talking point.
I can get it for you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, the next is your stop loss performance. The orange and the blue are your spec share premium and your reinsurance premium, they're your fixed costs. That's what you pay into those buckets. The gray is the claims that were paid by the reinsurance carrier. So with the exception of 2022, the reinsurance carrier has spent more money in claims than you've paid in premium.
How do they feel about that?
Well, lucky you, you're in this program because you're guaranteed renewable. That's one thing with standalone self-funded. There's no guarantee that the reinsurance carrier will renew you. In some of your years, you would have either taken a huge hit in premium, which you never have in this program, or they would have said, we're not taking you back next year. Right, because the reason we can keep these costs lower is we're spreading the risk, right? So it's not just Keystone, and it's not just the other 21 schools. We're spreading this risk over 100,000 employees, right? Because we have a big pool of people.
Yeah,
So that's why they can, we try to price the reinsurance carrier at 80% loss ratio, right? We know they've got to make money. It may not always hit 80% every year. Over a 5-year span, it most likely does do that for them, but it's never going to hit that way for an individual group, right? It's an overall book of business, what they're looking at.
Same again, could I see a 10-year snapshot? Maybe other people would be interested in seeing that, so we can compare that to the other one.
Okay, so the next one is a pullout. This is a really big, which is why I wanted the paper, but it's hard to look at this on the screen. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but it's a really interesting representation of what your claims have been, stop loss claims, since you joined the program in 2009. You can see at the very top what your specific deductible has been. So it was 65,000 when you first started in 2009, and now it's up to 100,000. The reason we don't want to lower that stop loss to something like 50,000, like we talked about, is what you'll be doing is you'll be paying a heck of a lot of money to the reinsurance carrier, which is money you're never going to get back. So we'd rather you take the risk, and it's not a big risk because it's only 100,000 for your size. It would be 200,000 on the standalone market, right?
What the other schools, I realize the other school districts are different sizes, different demographics, numbers. Is that number, would you say, average, 100,000?
Right, so
normal?
basically what our actuaries do, they have a table. They say, this is your employer size.
Okay.
This is what your stop loss point should be.
Okay.
So Central Dauphin has 1,300 employees. Their stop loss point, I think, is 140,000, right? Because they can take on more risks. They're larger.
Got more money.
A school district like Weatherly, which is very small, I think their stop loss is maybe 50,000 or 60,000 because they're small and they can't take on the
So
risk.
this is right size.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So when you're looking at this slide, when you're looking at this slide, when you're seeing those yellow bars, these are the people that hit the stop loss that year, right? You follow those bars across over the years, you're going to see repeat offenders, right? People that are consistently meeting their stop loss. Your third claimant there hit the stop loss at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in a row. I'm not sure what happened to them in 2021, whether they're still on the plan or whether they got better. Right now, we go further on into the years. We look at like claimant 109, 110. Yeah, 107. That was a $1.1 million claim in a year. And that person has hit their stop loss point 1, 2, 3, 5 years in a row.
So when we see the number stop, they either went to a different insurance program, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever, or they passed on. But these other ones that keep going across from left to right, we're still paying for them. And if I could just say one thing about color coding, and then it would be very interesting if the spouses were one color, the employees were another color, and the dependents were another color. And then the total number of employees total number of dependents and the total number of spouses. Otherwise, I'd have to count them all myself. Would that be easy for you just to do a little, or is this the final report and I'll just do it myself?
I can, no, you don't have to do it yourself. I can give you those numbers in a different format.
Whatever's best and easiest. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
By year, of course. I mean, the way it's set up.
We
is
have
fine.
all of this,
Mhm.
just not this slide. It doesn't look like this slide, because this slide is too ugly. So we're not, but I can give you those numbers.
As long as it's easy, it won't be very time consuming. It'd be very helpful because that's one thing we've never really discussed is trends. At least, I'm not saying administration, I'm just saying the board is, I don't feel as a board member that I'm well versed on trends, what to expect and how to deviate and assess to get the trends not so high possible.
You figured that out. You'll be rich.
Well, something's got to give here. This isn't right.
So my point is, with showing you this is that some years, I mean, we cannot tell, we can tell you about how many stop loss claimants you're gonna have in a year. We can't tell you how much they're gonna spend in claims. We
Yeah.
can't tell you the severity of those claims. You're going to have repeat offenders that are gonna be there every single year. You're gonna have somebody that hits it once and they're never gonna be on here again. It's unpredictable what happens here. But you do currently have a couple very high spenders. The one who was 1.1 million in 2019 is already at 646,000 through December. So they're on track to be another $1 million claim for the school.
This is an employee.
Spouse, yeah, you going
Mhm.
across spouse.
There you go.
I would encourage spousal exclusion.
I didn't
Um,
say that. Didn't
uh,
say that. I didn't say that. I'm just,
No, I would encourage spousal exclusion if the spouse can have coverage through their own employer.
mhm.
Because what you see in public sector and mostly this, I have a county program too. You don't see it so much in counties. Schools, definitely. See a lot of spousal exclusions. In the last 5 years, I would say half of our schools have spousal exclusions in place.
Mhm.
And it's only if they have other insurance. You know, you're not saying you don't have other insurance, you can't be on our plan. You can be on our plan.
Yes.
But your plans are rich, your plans are cheap, and they're gonna be on your plan. Because their employer probably has a qualified plan with a $5,000 deductible, and it still costs you as much money as what the plan on here costs. So
You brought up a good topic for future
Yeah.
discussion.
you're having people jump on your plan who,
Yes,
Don't
we have
need to
other,
be on
we
your
have other
plan.
options.
Yep. All right, so we'll get past that. You do have an issue with, this is the, what we were talking about earlier, somebody who's on your plan who should not be on your health plan. This is a spouse of a retiree. And the spouse was offered coverage when the person retired from your employment or their employment in 2018. The spouse never should have been offered coverage by the school because the spouse was over the age of 65 at that time. When you are over the age of 65 and
You're
neither you or your spouse is actively working, then Medicare must be primary. Not even a question, Medicare must be primary. The spouse has Medicare Part A, but not Medicare Part B. The spouse refuses to get Medicare Part B, so they are on your health plan. We are currently, we moved to a different reinsurance carrier in 2024. We are currently working with our new reinsurance carrier because our old reinsurance carrier, we had a bad breakup with them. And they said, no, this person, even though we've been paying this person's claims for the last 4 years, we're not gonna pay this person's claim because they never did on the health plan to begin with.
Will we get sued?
By who?
I don't know. Everything's okay that way?
Well, here's the thing. It's fine with us. You can do whatever you want. You're self-funded. You can do what you want. The reinsurance carrier can tell you they're not gonna pay a claim. You guys paid this person's claims.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to get your money back. Okay, from the reinsurance carrier. Going forward, I guarantee you that this person's claims over the stop loss point will be paid until your retiree is off the plan and that person turns 65 in
When's that?
2020, December of 2026.
Thank God. So we have to pay up until December 2026,
Yes.
and then we're done.
And then you're done. But the benefit of the PSHIC program is if you went fully insured, if you went to Highmark or Geisinger or whoever,
Mhm.
they wouldn't let you cover this person because they shouldn't be on your plan.
They
because they're
shouldn't
over
be.
the age of 65. If you went standalone self-funded, the reinsurance carrier would say, we're not paying for this person's claim. They're over 65, they're Medicare.
Yeah.
Right?
That's normal.
Yes, our program is abnormal. You'll pay that claim. We've already made the deal with the reinsurance carrier for this plan year. Through December, that person has $65,000 for claims. So that's something you need to think about. The last slide, I just wanted to show, because Joni and I talked about this several months ago, what a fully insured quote would look like. I mean, I hope after all this conversation, I might have dissuaded you from ever thinking about going fully insured, but
I
if
don't-
you did, I thought I would get you the quote. I think this quote proves that this is a very efficient way to fund your claims. It doesn't make any sense for a group your size to ever consider fully insuring, because you're just throwing your money away.
No, yeah, I'm, as a board member, I don't need to hear any more about the fully insured unless any other board member or administration wants to hear anything about fully insured. Is there any? I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
I'm sorry, I know we've gone over, but you know, this is a topic I've been wanting to discuss for years. Thank you, Joni, whoever set this up. Are we allowed to do questions now?
You can ask as much as you want.
Chair Bill, may I ask some questions real quick? I'll take this, yes. Well, it's a pain. If you can't get your thing to unmute, it's a nightmare. I had a couple of quick questions, and please, if you don't have the answers right now, that's totally understandable. And maybe Dr. Redmond or Joni or someone can just let us know what your answers will be at a later time. Page
Can you
4.
hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry, it didn't unmute when I tried.
it's a tricky whip. I asked Chair Bill if I can ask a couple
Yeah,
questions.
please
She's
do,
done.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Page 4. To help dilute, to grow. How are you able to try to get more school districts in this program? I mean, what's the challenge here that these schools aren't going, more numbers, sorry.
So there's 500 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes,
Majority of them are already in a consortium. So Williamsport's a really good example of this. I think South Williamsport. Those kind of consortiums, once you get into them, it's nearly impossible to get out of them, because that surplus money we talked about that you guys get back every year when you have it available, in those consortiums, they keep it.
so there's no way because this is a for-profit company, there's no way that this company might want to consolidate with one next door to it, right? So we could just get bigger.
This has nothing to do with Benetcon. These are the schools.
Well, I mean, their consortium and this consortium here that I see, do you see where I'm trying to get at is to bring the cost down, to make the pool of clients larger. Has there been any discussion at all that consortium group might combine
Join ours?
with?
Sure. We had a largest consortium 3 years ago. Actually, like in the Harrisburg area, that was interested in joining, and they joining together, right? The entire consortium would move over. And I will say we turned them down because they were not a good risk. So it would not have been appropriate for the rest of the members.
Sure, I respect your
Right.
professional.
Your risk, your premium is not based on how many members we have here. 90% of your premium is based on your claims.
I understand that.
So it's not, we could have 1,000 schools. Your premium's not changing. I guarantee you, your premium is not changing. You're still gonna be paying what you're paying.
Because everyone's about the same risk,
Right,
basically.
and well,
Okay,
because
I
you're,
understand.
because 90% of your premium is based on just paying your own claims.
Okay, yep, got that. Do they give any deductions or better, anything for a wellness program like other groups do, where, is there anything out there that we can help with the cost or get the clients healthier?
The school district gets wellness credits each year from Highmark. I don't know what you do with them.
We have a-
You get them.
Can it,
Yes.
well, we can talk about that later. Okay. Jeez Louise. I noticed that this is just for school districts, and I understand it's the Public School Health Insurance Cooperative. Have they ever considered, I'm just curious, because everything right now has got to be combined at some level to bring down the costs. What about with county governments?
We have a consortium for county government.
Do you ever blend the two, or is that,
Well, okay, we'll go back to what your premium is, right? 90% of your premium is your claims fund. The other 20% would be your reinsurance numbers, right? That premium and your ASO fee with Highmark,
right?
okay? Highmark already looks at Benecon's book, right? They're not looking at
Just
Keystone
individuals?
or PSHIC, right?
Mhm.
We are Highmark Blue Shield's largest broker in the state. So they're already looking at that.
Okay,
I mean, and the same with the reinsurance carrier. They're looking at our entire book with them. They're
okay,
not just saying, okay, PSHIC or PCHIP, which is the county program,
right.
or we have a municipality program. They're looking at all of that book together to develop their rates.
Okay,
So your risk is being spread out amongst, like I said, about 100,000.
okay, well, that's
employees.
good to know. So basically it's there, it's just we don't see it. I got it.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else we can, is there anything else that you could recommend that we could do besides union negotiations, which that is not today? This is not about that. Is there anything else we can do? That you would give us recommendations so we can lower these costs annually?
Without negotiating, no. I mean, if you have to go through everything, I mean, the benefit design changes are negotiable,
Okay.
right?
Well, you said we picked Highmark. Okay. Is there a different recommendation from your,
No, and I'll tell you why. Just
Okay.
because your location,
Yeah.
right? I mean, your
Mhm.
choices are Geisinger,
sure.
I
UPMC?
guess Aetna, UPMC. I mean,
Okay, fair enough.
it doesn't, I mean, I think do you get a negative ASO with Highmark? Or do you get rebates? I can't remember.
I'm sorry, what's
don't
the
know.
question?
Um,
Jargon?
Highmark can give a negative ASO number, right? So
Mhm.
it's a credit against your claims.
Mhm.
And I can't remember whether the school district gets the negative ASO. There was choices you had a few years ago, and I can't remember which one it was. Okay, then you're getting the rebates. Okay, you're getting the rebates. Okay, okay. I don't want to confuse you with that conversation, but yeah. Highmark gives very good discounts in this area. Much better than you get from Cigna or UHC. UPMC, I don't know. We work with UPMC. We work with any carrier. We don't dictate to any of our groups who their carrier has to be. We don't
No, I
care.
understand
We're
that.
agnostic.
Mhm.
So whoever you choose is fine with us.
So if our clients, if our staff are allowed to pick, they have to stay in the Hallmark? Or they are also allowed to choose outside of Hallmark?
Again.
All right, never
that's-
mind, sorry.
that's
Okay.
School
That's another
district choice.
Conversation for another later day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We don't care.
Sorry. That was fantastic.
We're good?
Well,
Lovely.
look forward to those couple updates or
Yep.
however you want to disseminate.
And
it.
honestly, I lost my business cards, but I do have my email in the back of the
Mhm,
presentation. So feel free. If you have any questions, or go through Joni or Christy and just
Well,
let me
should
know.
we assume we're gonna see the 10-year
Yes. Oh,
snapshot?
absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not gonna bother you.
Okay.
So we already got that. Great.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
make sure I send it after.
Thank you so much, Joni.
all right. Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Cook, thank you for your presentation. I guess the next thing is visitors. Do we have any visitors registered, Frank?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, let's go on to section D. Resolution 154.
Yep, so Joni's here and talk about, it's a proposed resolution 154 that we would like the facilities committee to look at, and we would like this to go to the full board for their decision on this transfer of funds, but Joni can talk more about that.
So you've probably heard that a couple of times through the audit. And it was discussed through the audit and then any kind of 25, 26 preliminary budget discussions. But we would like to recommend that you take the $1.3 million surplus that we had last year from 23-24 and move it over to capital funds for the 3 specific projects that we talked about in facilities, which were the Mill Hall Elementary automated logic, the tennis courts, and there was the gym HVA systems. So Sam is getting quotes for those, but I believe he might even have them all except for the gym ones. And we believe that 1.3 will cover all 3 of those projects. So I have the resolution there if you would like to approve that or discuss it to be moved forward to the February agenda.
Anyone have any questions or discussion on this?
I've got one for Joni.
Go ahead, Chris.
Joni, is there anything or any grants to help do this that anybody's looked at to help? Because I understand we've got the money, but we got to start looking at giving our taxpayers, our senior citizens, some breaks. And I'd like to see us go more after more grants to cover stuff like this. We got to start cutting our budget, not keep adding to it every year. And I'm curious, jobs like this, there's usually grants out there for this.
We did apply for grants for some of these things and we were not awarded any of them. So we are continuously looking for grant opportunities to offset cost. But we weren't successful we didn't get any of the grants to fund these projects in particular. We're still looking. I sent a note out to the board in my weekly memo about some support we're getting for finding what grants are available through PSBA. So we're going over that with a fine-tooth comb, trying to find other grant opportunities.
Chair Bill, may I comment, please?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Just a quick history, all right? Yes, we did meet with Mill Hall Borough. I'll use the Mill Hall tennis courts as an example. We got to the point where we were having discussions about doing a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, because the director of the DCNR grant for the tennis courts stated it would have to pass through Mill Hall Borough because they didn't give grants directly to the school district. Well, then another priority came up and the discussion stopped. So it appeared at that time, a year and a half ago, it appeared that if we would have pursued the MOU with a host municipality, in the case of the high school, it'd be Bald Eagle Township. It appears, but again, another priority came up, discussion stopped, and everyone kept moving forward. So here we are again, and we're at the 11th hour. But that's why I'm hoping maybe in the future we can put grants, administrator, grant management, grant something on some sort of agenda so we can have an educated discussion on it in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Bill, I got one more question.
Go ahead.
Do we have to do all these projects at once, or can we stretch them out, do one year, one a different year, and so on and so forth?
These are all projects that have been on the 10-year plan for some time. The HVAC systems at the high school, for instance, we had an assessment done 3 years ago that showed that they were already in critical status. And
Right.
And it's reported that our maintenance folks spend more time on those 3 units than on any other HVAC system in the district. So we know that's a priority. Our tennis courts, we've been talking about for the entire time that I've been here, and it was an old conversation then. For safety's sake and to make sure that our students can continue to play on a court that's approved to be competed on, we need to make those improvements. And then the next up in the HVAC system is every day our facilities folks have to go to Mill Hall to manually operate and get the heating system started, whereas this automated system would make it so that the system is automated and works like it was intended and originally designed to do. So they're all critical projects that we haven't been able to fund because it hasn't been in the budget before. And since we were really frugal last year and able to not spend everything that was budgeted, we now have an opportunity to fund these projects that have been delayed for years.
I understand that. I'm really thinking that we gotta get a couple people put together and start digging more and more and more grants, not just waiting on PSBA. We've got to get grants because I'm being beat up by people that cannot keep affording the taxes and everything that's going on. We're losing the battle. And we need to start cutting some breaks to people. Senior citizens need a break. And that's all there is to it. The property taxes are going crazy. I'd just like to see us be able to start cutting where we can cut. To be honest with you, I'd like to see a 10% a year cut for a little while of expenses total. And give the senior citizens of this county a break. We've got senior citizens that are going to end up being out of their houses and moving because of the fact that they just can't keep up. That's all I got to say.
Chair Bill,
Yes, Elizabeth.
maybe at the end, if Chris wants something put on the agenda or something, I'd like to hear it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Frank, you mentioned in the resolution, it says rooftop units, but
Yes.
you mentioned HVAC.
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
assume they're the same thing. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, good. Now, and to my recollection, I remember a long discussion about the tennis courts at the Central Mountain High School that were in questionable shape and might be a risk to the players. But I don't remember anything about any discussion about Bucktail. Have I just forgotten, or what's going on there? Are they in as equally bad shape, or?
Yeah, so
What's
during
happening?
that conversation, Bucktail was mentioned as, rather than going to in as much detail as we did with the ones at Central Mountain, it was mentioned frequently as the same issue is happening at Bucktail. So it wasn't brought up as a specific separate point, more as an add-on to what we see down here at Central Mountain High School.
But they're unsafe also. They have the irregularities and the things that are a risk to the athletes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any discussion on this? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that, we discussed all of these items in the facilities meeting that was prior to this. And I think that these are all projects that are at a critical point. And I think the committee was recommending that we go ahead and do these based upon the funding that's listed here in this resolution.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Yeah. All right. Does anyone wish to move that we forward this to the entire board with a recommendation to approve?
I don't think it.
Yeah, we
I
don't
don't-
normally vote. We just have the consensus,
Yeah, it's
say
just a
we
consensus.
would like to move it forward to the board. I think that's where we're at now.
Okay, fine. I think that's what we should do.
I have to get going here in a couple minutes, so.
I'm sorry?
So I have to leave here about 4:30. I have another meeting I have to go to in Renova this afternoon or this evening. So
Next is the budget update.
Okay. I do want to make sure everyone understands this is a preliminary budget. This is where we always start out in February and we start to just look at the numbers at a, this is what we know as of today. So I just want everyone to understand this is an absolutely preliminary budget. So go ahead and go to the next page. This you've seen multiple times, which is the timeline for developing a balanced budget that hasn't changed pretty much at the end of the day on June 12th, which is the voting session in June of 25 to go ahead and adopt the budget. So on the next slide, this is where we started the year 7/1/24 for the 24-25 budget or fiscal year. We ended with the general fund balance of 20,980,000. This does include that $1.3 million surplus. So I just want to add that. And you can see the projects that we do have committed as well and the assigned.
May I?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I don't remember. What is not the first line, non-spendable inventory mean?
So that's just the inventory that we have in the warehouse. They have to value that.
Oh,
It's just
it's
the
physical
warehouse. Mhm.
supplies.
Yes,
Oh,
it's supplies.
okay.
Yes, we have to put a value on it for auditing purposes.
Sure.
So that's really all that is. Mhm. Nope, good question.
Oh,
And then the capital fund 32, again, and 7/1/2024, we had $957,146. Okay, on the next slide, what I'd like to show you is the actual 23-24. So the first slide, the slide above, if you're gonna wonder why the numbers aren't the same, the 20 million had 1.3 in it. This 19 does not. That's making, again, that assumption that the board will approve the transfer of the 1.3 to the capital funds. But I did just want to show you that. If you move on to 24-25, that's the budgeted approved amount. We are projecting that in capital projects, it will decrease from 2.4 to the 730,000. Remember that the board approved the $1.7 million transfer for Liberty Curtain cost. They should all have been, or they may not all be used, but I'm making, again, the assumption that those monies will be spent by the end of the fiscal year. PSERS remains the same, and health improvements and awareness programs. We do have $51,000 sitting in there. Health insurance reserves, that's, again, if you talk to Kathy Cook, you understand the presentation. We may need that money. Where we're sitting right now, we're 10% over. I also believe that we will use the technology enhancement initiatives. I do believe we will spend that down to zero by the end of the year. The board also approved to move the personnel expenses of the 1.1 out of the committed bucket. There didn't seem to have a need in there for that, and move it into the unassigned.
what would the school board use for personnel expenses?
That was probably
I-
4 years ago during COVID. And the board approved extra COVID expenses, personnel extra COVID expenses. That was way back in
I'm
21.
I was here. Oh, good. Okay, it's a dead
yeah.
issue then.
Yeah. So, but it was definitely an approved committed transfer of funds.
Sure.
Okay. Yep. I actually looked at that too because I wasn't sure. The 521,000 is the assigned trusts that we have regarding any special ed cases. So we have trust assigned to that, and we have to move that into the assigned bucket, which leaves our assigned fund balance of 7.8. We are in a very, very healthy fund balance sitting here. So I will go on, and one of the agenda items, which I'll actually just jump to, and it's called committed funds. And we can talk about, and we can discuss maybe options of how we want to move forward, maybe committing some of those funds to projects that we think are valuable. one of my recommendations, administration's recommendations would be we've committed to the software, the new software project, and that was about $500,000. I would like to see, administration would like to see that moved out of unassigned and actually either assign it or commit that to the software. I think that would be valuable to see that money actually committed for that software. That will be a 2-year phase, but I think it would be advisable to go ahead and move that money over to the committed fund.
Which software program?
That was the new ERP system that we're getting starting July 1.
Oh,
We
I
are
thought
working on
we
the
were-
transition.
Oh, so I thought, okay, I'm sorry, let me back up. I thought when we recommended that it was already, there was already money to pay for that.
It was part of this, absolutely budget. It absolutely was.
Okay,
I was just saying, maybe we should move it out to committed, giving our looking at 25, 26 budget.
so you're just saying it's already
I'm just
being
saying,
spent.
maybe
Yeah, I
commit
see,
it, put it
understand.
back, commit it. And
It's-
so I'll say that for that. I also think that we should look at options. What do we deem as necessary that you want to commit to? And I've just put on there, I just put on the bus loop as an example down in that committed options. We may not want to do that. Maybe there are safety and security items, the swipe system, the phone system, the PA system. Is there things that we are looking at grants, by the way, with PCCD, we've received grants from them every year. Now you can see though, the trend with those, we used to get $300,000. Now we get $175,000. There's more schools than ever vying for all of those grants. You can see, schools, used to be 80 schools. Now there's 300 schools. Same pot of money, more schools trying to get it, which means less funds per school. So we get them every year, but the funds don't cover a whole system. They don't cover the whole district. They only cover a school. So we're trying to, what we don't want to do is piecemeal it, but we're trying to just do one school at a time. If we would choose to want to do it all together, maybe we could commit those funds to those certain projects. And again, I'll bring it up at the next finance meeting. I know Sam has some things to look at in facilities that, he might deem as, necessary for next year, even this year, to commit some of those funds. So looking at then 25, 26. Again, we'll talk about the budget. I have it at 91 million for now. Saying that the capital projects hasn't moved all the way down. Health insurance hasn't moved. This is not committing any money. This is not making any assumptions of committing money. This is, however, saying that we may use fund balance. If we cannot balance the budget, we may use fund balance. And I just wanted to show an example of what that would look like to your unassigned. Okay, next slide. Any questions? Okay. So these are always the charts that we always start out with. And I will tell you, and I understand they may look, there's a lot of red on there, but if I would show you last year's at this exact time, and I'll just kind of hold it up. I know you can't see it online, but it looks exactly the same as the one I'm showing you right now. So again, preliminary budgets, preliminary. This is the no tax increase. This is assuming a 15% benefit increase. I don't have any indication as of right now to lower that based upon where we are right now. PSERS did drop. It was projected to be 34.72, I think it was, and it is 34%. So that has helped. It has helped. We'll take anything. We'll take anything. The next page shows you if we would have a 1.78 millage increase. So for simplicity's sakes, we will increase about $500,000 if you raise it. Each one of these scenarios raises the tax revenue by $500,000. So instead of the 6.6 deficit, you would see a 6.1 deficit. The next page as well. This is at a 3.55. You see a 5.6. And lastly, the next one would be a 5.1. So you see the deficit decreasing by $500,000. This is changing nothing but tax revenue. This is changing absolutely nothing but that. Which leads me to the last page, which is actually the most important page. where we are still, again, preliminary stages. We met with the budget, we met with all the department heads, these principals and the department heads of every property services curriculum and so forth. And they have been instructed to go back to the drawing board. We have to cut expenses. So they're going to submit a new budget to me by this Friday of places where they need to reduce. I believe Frank and Randy and his team are meeting regarding staff.
It's later this week.
Yes. And again, how do we repurpose? We have retirees. Do we need all of those positions? So again, that is also in the works. Health rate, again, I can only assume as the numbers I have right now at 15%. We had an increase in the bond principal and interest regarding those 2 Liberty Curtain bonds that we just took on. So you're going to see an additional bond for 25-26. The next one I put in here, and it's an important one, the cyber charter and the virtual academies. I will tell you from 22-23 to 23-24, cyber charter has increased by $1.5 million. 1.5. So
Is that because the number of students has gone up, or is that because they're just charging us more?
hey, that's a great question, and I did a little digging.
I'm sure you did. That's why those are the two critical ones.
Nope, that was perfect. I hope you asked that question because that's exactly what we did. So I went through, and actually I cannot take right. Teresa Carlson went through and detailed from 22-23, 23-24, and where we landed, where we are as of right now. I will tell you this too. When we ran the numbers for the budget for last year, I budgeted 2.7.
Okay.
We landed at 4.3 in
Nice,
23-24.
nice.
So our budget for this year is too low. We didn't know when we did the budget, because it's 8 months ahead when we normally would know the actual expenses. But that's how far off we are from this year to last year, budget wise. If you look at, I'll just name out a couple of ones. Commonwealth Charter, that's the biggest expense. In 22-23, we paid them $1.3 million. The average enrollment for regular ed was 62, special ed was 15. In 23-24, it jumped from 1.3 to 2.4. Enrollment, regular 62, now it's 107. Special ed 15, now it's 36.
Okay.
So it's a twofold. I believe tuition has increased by its normal amount, which we would have no control over. But enrollment, as you can tell, the numbers are a significant increase.
Okay, don't worry about this now, please, Joni.
Mhm.
But this is something at a later discussion, if the board wants to discuss it at the appropriate time. Now, the data for how many of those students have been at Keystone for a while and how many of those students are brand new. But don't worry about that right now, but that will be very telling.
What we've seen, the trend we've seen is they just jump. They just jump from charter to charter, back here, charter. I will check and see what's new.
Well, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but I'm saying if we want to talk about it, I'm not telling you what to do, Joni. I'm just saying it'd be really helpful to know that.
To know what is new to the charters.
To know if the percentage of students went up, obviously,
Mhm.
that pool of students 2 years ago, were those students enrolled in the classroom here at Keystone Central School District? Or did those students come from other places and they're new students, but they just automatically went into the voucher program? What I'm trying to say, is there any trend? Is there any correlation between
Mhm.
possibly the culture and why the student is there
Mhm.
versus maybe they will always be a cyber student
Mhm.
because that's where they're comfortable?
I will tell you, because I asked those questions as well, and I don't know that answer, and we can look into it. The best person to ask is Dave Peters. Maybe we can bring him in. He's most knowledgeable
That
about
would be great.
charter, cyber charter.
Sure.
I do know some of these schools have less requirements as far as credits. So we require X amount of credits. Well, the charter school only, or the cyber school only require less. So that child's having a difficult time. So they're going to move to where they have less credits.
Sure,
Um,
because it's not standardized.
yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Hello,
So that's-
legislators.
That is what I understand, one reason. Now, I just heard, I don't know if Dave told me this or that they are talking about, and I don't know if it's a charter or all charters, having the kids actually clock in from 8 to 3. That'll make a big difference. If they are now required to clock in from 8 to
If-
3, you might see a change
Will you
in
please
a
try to
shift.
keep us abreast of that? Because
Absolutely.
I don't mind if a parent or a child wants to go to an alternate education, I support it 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Only if we're paying for it, then the rules have to be the same.
I can get Dave Peters to speak at the next finance
Yeah,
meeting.
I would
just-
love to hear
you know,
something.
And you're gonna see these. I can go over, I can give you every specific number, but Insight Charter, Central PA Cyber, same trend. It's the increase in enrollment that we have seen.
Maybe our kids here, they only want, well, never mind, that's in the conversation. Go ahead. Sorry.
So anyway, that to kind of bring it back to this slide, we have seen, like I said, a 1.5 jump. We are already for this year. I think, let me think where we are. Oh, for 24, 25, we are already at 3 million at end of January. So we have February, March, April, May. We have 4 more months and we're already at 3 million. I budgeted 2.7. So we're going to be at the $4 million mark again, is what I would say. So
Okay.
I just want to let you know that that is something we're up against as far as an additional expense. Capital projects, I would like to discuss at the next meeting some kind of funding options, some kind of possibilities to, pick out, have this group and through facilities as well, maybe decide what projects you would like to commit to and commit those funds to doing those projects. A concern always is when the budgets get tight, the things that go are facilities. You
Absolutely.
forego the $600,000 that we like to transfer every year. Well, that's an easy $600,000 to omit. We're trying to avoid those things. The best way to do that is to take that healthy fund balance that we have and maybe commit some of those funds. I know the board doesn't want to hear this, but the reason why we have a healthy fund balance is because we have slowly and steadily raised taxes. You take a year that you don't, and you are detrimentally affecting the out years. I know we absolutely need to close the deficit gap, and we are absolutely working on that. So if I jump to revenues, we do have the loss in the ESSER funds. We use the ESSER funds for curriculum and technology. So we have seen the jump in those two budgets this year because we use those ESSER funds for those type of expenses. I maintain the state funding because I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell you we would get more, but I don't know that. And we won't know that till next September, October, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Every year we see a decrease in title funding. And so we have teachers committed to, title teaching, but every year those funds decrease. Again, we can discuss a potential tax increase. You're also going to see lower interest rates. So we're not going to make as much money on our CDs and
Investment.
so forth. So again, this is preliminary, probably not in February for the February board meeting. I hope to show you something a little bit better than this. So I just want to give you though, this is kind of the first run at it. Questions?
I just real quick, not tonight. Chair Bill, may I ask a question, please?
Please do, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Not today, but maybe in the future. We haven't discussed this, I don't think ever, to help lower maybe some of our reoccurring costs. Paper, I don't know what it is. That's your expertise. Our buying power with the Sugar Valley Charter School. If they're buying this same thing that we're buying, if they're using the same technology that we're using, if we're using recurring, what I'm saying is, if there's a possibility to start that discussion, if there's interest, that might save a little bit of reoccurring cost. I don't know. Same with insurance. I don't know what it is. That's your boat. I don't even know if it's possible, but I have to put it out there. And the other one is, This is not going to probably increase taxes, okay? But it might be a shift. Or it might increase taxes for us. I don't know because we've never sat down with a tax specialist. But this is a concept that I've seen other ones do. It's a referendum, don't panic. The Local Tax Enabling Act 511, options for real estate taxes. I would like at some point, I'll send out an email to see if there's interest to put it on an agenda maybe. It's where the EIT tax might be increased, where you lower property taxes or you get rid of the business privilege tax. Bottom line, the school district, we have the power to levy, assess, and collect taxes. And we can do earned income tax up to 1.5%. Now, I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying it might be a tax shift. But again, we don't know anything about this, but we're in charge of it. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Anyone else have a question?
No.
Okay, Joni, I just have one. This moving the funds to I can't remember.
Committed.
The committed, thank you. I didn't make a note for that. Thank you. Is that just a paperwork thing or does it really have an impact? I don't quite understand what you're doing there.
It is a board approved resolution. And it would require if we would assign funds, that does not require board approval. If you commit funds, that requires board approval. Committing funds, and I'll just take technology enhancements. 2 years ago, we committed $1 million. The board committed $1 million because we knew that we were doing a lot of one-to-one. We were trying to get one-to-one for every grade. And we knew that we had to get that in a cycle. So we approved to commit $1 million for that. And that's what we have done. And so it went from $1 million. Last year, we used about $350,000. This year, more than likely, we will use all of the rest of that. So what you're doing when you commit funds is you're saying it's harder to not do the project if you have committed funds for it. And so if we would look at what projects, facilities projects, security projects, and say, you know what, that is really important. And given what our budget's going to look like, but we really need to get these certain projects done, then I would recommend committing those funds to certain projects. So that's what committing the funds do.
And just as a side note, it's not completely a one-way street. So if there are other priorities that the board pushes higher on the list later on, you can uncommit those funds too.
Yes.
So it's kind of like setting up a savings account for a particular project. But if priorities change, you can move money out of that savings account back into.
Just like we did for the personnel.
Right.
That was assumed that might be needed. And you didn't want to have to not have funds available for that. That's really what it is. You want to make sure you've set aside funds, again, like a savings account, and commit those to the project. Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Chair Bill. Okay, real quick, might be on your agenda for next time or not, but Mill Hall Pool. The Mill Hall Pool is probably in a make or break situation this year, whether or not they can get the matching funds for the grant. Be that as it may. We have the summer camp program. They use the Mill Hall Park. Some of our kids use the pool for competitions, for clubs, for lessons. We don't have any extra money, but I would like us to consider discussing the Mill Hall Pool and if there's anything we can do to support it, whether we ask the kids if they want to do a fundraiser, whether or not we want to talk to Mill Hall Borough one-to-one in a public meeting. I don't know what it is, but if our community doesn't want the pool, If it's not good for our school district, then we shouldn't talk about it. But if the school district thinks the pool's a good thing for our community, then I think we should maybe talk about it in the future. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Frank, I'm
No,
sorry.
I have to apologize. I have another meeting. I have to be in Renova at 5:30.
Okay,
As long as I can, so.
Thank
I
you.
just apologize for leaving.
no problem. Thanks, Butch. You
Thank you.
drive safely.
I can't drive safe. I gotta drive fast, be there by 5:30.
Hello, Officer Winkleman.
Won't be the first time.
He doesn't do that, right?
Oh, that's right. He's over on that
Not
side.
Winkleman, it's Nora I worry about.
That's right.
You gotta worry about Officer Nora.
That's from moving down.
We're paying.
Frank,
Yes.
is this, in listening to Joni's presentation, it just seems like what crosses my mind, is there any way we can have any control? And I'm not expecting you to answer this now unless you know it's a definite no. So I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just thinking, is there any way we can limit the people that want to get into this cyber school business
No.
and look for, and secondly, is it possible to when we have to do it, get them with people that are costing us the least? And
No,
if you could
no,
come up with that information, it
Yeah.
it might be helpful in the future.
Yeah, the answer is no. It's a parent decision. It's part of the charter law that went into effect in the state that parents can choose to move their students into either a cyber charter or a brick and mortar charter. Cyber charters are kind of a statewide kind of endeavor, and parents can choose from, I think there's 14 approved, if I remember correctly, cyber charters in the state, and the parents can choose which one they want to send their kids to. And then the state decides the rate at which the cyber charter schools are paid and the charter schools. They have a formula that we have to use to determine how much they get for students, whether they have an IEP or not.
And
Yeah.
is the money we're spending for that, does this, is it costing more per student to do that than it is to the students that are doing it the normal way?
Yes.
The easy answer is yes. It's a kind of a matter of how you look at what it costs to do education. In general, we can much more efficiently teach a student in our system at a lower cost. There's an economy of scale sort of a thing that works into it as well. So the cost part of it is, I think one of the things the cyber charters really are enjoying is that their actual costs to educate students is far less. I won't say far less, that's speculative, is less than what they charge is less than their cost to educate kids.
What they charge is less than their cost,
Yes.
so they're losing money.
No,
No, it's the other way around.
it's the other way
So-
around.
That's all right.
It is, it's big business, Bill.
I
They, they have very little overhead. They
Yeah.
have very little accountability, and they know that they're dependent, or they know that they've got everybody over a barrel. I have been preaching it with this for a long time, that the whole cyber school thing is a ripoff of public school districts. It is a blatant ripoff is what it is. And these people that are running these schools are making big money. And it's absolutely criminal and the legislators refuse to do anything about it. The reimbursement that Frank's talking about is totally unfair. The charter schools get a bigger reimbursement per student, especially special ed students, than the public schools do. And it's the deck is stacked against all of the school districts. And they have been fighting this for a long time, and it falls on deaf ears in Harrisburg. And, you guys want to save some money, right there is a good spot to start. You get on the backs of these legislators, and maybe if somehow you could get them to revamp that charter school law, which has been in effect since 1997 and has not been changed since. They've tweaked it a little bit here in recent times, but it's certainly not enough. And, you know, it's just, I just am appalled at how much of a rip-off, and you can hear right now what Joni is talking about. And the reason the kids go there is because there is very little accountability.
Sure.
They don't, you know, they get on a computer for an hour or so, if they do that, in between playing video games or whatever they do at home. But yet they're getting full reimbursement for those, and we're paying the freight.
I disagree with that statement somewhat, Jeff. Because I know these kids are working their butts off in other schools. But the big white elephant in
I'm
the
talking
room-
cyber schools, Chris. I'm talking
Yeah,
cyber.
hold on. The big white elephant in the room is, why are these kids beating our door down to leave and going elsewhere?
Because they don't have to do anything. That's why.
I don't believe that. How about it's because schools are unsafe and there's issues?
You know, I don't think that there's a universal reason. We certainly have, I can show that there are students who leave because of the accountability thing. And I can also find students who say that they feel unsafe. What are the numbers on that? I'm not sure. I know that we've also heard from students, both in the data and from the students themselves, who have said that the schools are not unsafe currently. Some people feel that way, but the day-to-day experience from students is that the schools have become much safer.
Well, they're safer than.
If this whole system had been run the way it should have been years ago, we wouldn't even be having this problem. But we all know not everybody that's in Clinton County in our school district that screams about all the bullying and all the stuff going on and everything, they're not all lying. The public is upset with us about the way things are going, and that has a lot to do with why people are fleeing the school. We've got to fix that problem first.
I think you see this same trend in many school districts.
In all the
I
school
don't think it's
districts.
just our school
It's-
district.
Well,
I
it's
think
you're
certainly
it's
right, Joni.
many,
It's-
many
it's
school
all
districts. Yeah.
across the
I
country.
agree, but it's this part of it.
Okay, Chris, I think that we all agree that, you know, that things need to be improved in that manner, but I think Jeff made a lot of good points also, and you know, there's like as Frank said, there's not one answer. So why don't we move on to something else? I think that Frank, it might be first of all of a sudden all the noise stopped. Can I be heard?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we can
We're
hear
being
you.
good.
All right, I'm sorry. Frank, if you could get us some talking points. I think, Jeff, you brought up the thing. We need to, both as individuals, as many individuals as we can recruit to help us, and maybe as a school board to, you know, repeatedly approach our, we'll be politically correct, approach our legislators to try to get this improved. But if we had something concrete that we could compose letters and phone calls, I would find it helpful if that's not too much trouble for you and your staff to do, Frank.
Okay, we'll start working on that. I know that there's folks at the IU level also who are looking at kind of a similar set of talking points. So I'll start
Yes.
working on that.
I mean, what is that? Anybody else agree, disagree with what I said?
Absolutely. The
No,
noise gets all the action. Okay? And I gotta commit to it. Be consistent. Again and again and again. Just writing one letter and sitting on, waiting 6 months. It depends on how committed the majority of the board will take this. I'll do whatever.
I agree with you 100%, Bill. All I'm trying to say is we at a point have to stop blaming everybody else and look in our own backyard to what we can do to fix it also.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. Okay, all right. Well, here we go. Sorry, okay, what's, the committing funds,
So we kind of touched on that when I went over the budget.
yeah,
The only administration recommendation would be to either assign or commit the $500,000 for the software. Is there any preference to doing that, not doing that, which direction you would like to take that? If it is committed, then it will need a resolution for the February board meeting. If it is assigned, then that does not require any board action, but through complete transparency, wanted to make sure this committee was
Right.
okay with,
I have no recommendation. I just think whatever the majority of the board wants to do,
okay.
to be honest with you. But
Yes.
thank you for asking, Bill.
Is the ERP software, is that software to help you, Joni?
Yes, that's the whole business office software, correct,
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
okay, any opinions on, which way we should go?
Either way, it'll show up in any of these documents.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so you know, I mean, it's for complete transparency.
I'm completely in the middle. Whatever the majority decides they want to do is I'm fine.
Yeah, we're gonna spend it either way.
Yeah,
Correct,
that's what I'm saying.
correct.
Apples, oranges.
So should we make a recommendation to the full board, or should we just bring this question to the full board and hash it out there?
I think we should just say, let's commit.
I agree. I think we should just commit those funds for those
Okay.
purposes and
Then they're.
then
for the
they're
board
there. And
agenda.
if you have to
Okay,
change
Sure.
it.
I'll go along with that.
Okay, so I'll have two
So we can-
resolutions.
We can, now what
Recommendation.
do we have to do here? Do we recommend to the board to commit this funds? Is that the procedure?
Yes, probably through the finance meeting, when you speak about the finance committee meeting minutes, you will more than likely discuss that the recommendation through the finance committee is to commit the $500,000 for the new software. I will also then include on the agenda, the resolution.
Okay,
So
very
that
good.
just-
You
Yes,
do all that during your report on the
Yes.
finance committee.
Yeah. Okay.
wonderful.
That's fine. Can do that. All right, can we go on to interest earnings now?
You're the chair.
Please, let's go on to interest earnings. Tony?
All right, so you can see the interest earnings there. The first is the general fund. The interest for 24-25 was 15,291.29, and that's as of December 31st. So we're halfway to what we were at 23-24, which was $39,044. The general fund CD, which has $7 million in it, and the interest is paid quarterly. Up to 24-25, we earned $183,754, and that's also as of December 31st. There was total interest earned for the general fund CD was $642,814. And then we also moved some of that to the capital reserves or the capital fund in 23-24. And we moved $372,960.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me
Any
to-
questions on that?
Mr. Bill?
Yes, go ahead, Elizabeth,
Thank
please.
you. Does this include the tax office collection money interest in the checking account? Can we have that added, please, so we know? And same with thank you.
Okay, anything else?
They are.
Okay, move on to the Roth.
The Roth 403B.
Well,
Was-
I'm the bad boy now, LOL.
doing? Mute,
That-
please,
Yeah,
Chris.
Chris, your mic is hot.
I was talking to somebody else.
That.
I hope
We
so.
figured.
The 403, the Roth 403B was introduced to us. There's an employee that had asked about that option for employees. Also Equitable, who we have our 403Bs through, brought it to our attention. And then Dr. Redmond is something that he wanted us to look into as well.
Sure.
So that is an option that we can offer to our employees at no cost to the district. It's completely would be something that a benefit to the employees that they would set up. So it's something that we just wanted to bring to the finance committee to show that that's something that our employees, it's an advantage that they have, that they can set up for themselves.
Right? Any discussion on this?
No, I think it's great. If they like, if they want it, that's super. It's a
I-
voluntary program, right?
Yep.
It is.
Super.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's great.
Yeah,
I
so
Good
we'll
job.
we'll put the information out to the employees that it's something that they can elect to do and then set up their deductions through payroll.
Great.
Yeah,
I think
good
the
up.
Roth is a great thing. I'm very happy I have one.
It is.
Yeah, so
I
go
hope
ahead, Jeff.
The employees I hope a lot of the employees take advantage of it because it is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
good,
I agree.
good
I agree.
savings tool.
Okay, I guess that seems to be it unless anyone has anything else.
I'm not raising my hand.
All right, so I guess,
Anybody want a bull mastiff?
I guess we can adjourn the meeting at 5:09 Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.